Hello, and welcome back to another buff breakdown. Yes, I'm still doing this, even though obviously this is already many days later, so hopefully no one got baited into thinking these are new buffs. Well, they are new, but not like day one new like I usually do. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I couldn't do them on day one, but a lot of people were still asking me about these anyway, so I figured, hey, I got you covered. So even though these videos might not do that well, I'm still gonna give you guys what you want, okay? So let's cover some buffs, because the two I didn't cover yet, well, there's one you can see right now. We got a skill buff for Sitonai. Very cool, first buff ever for her, I believe. And then a skill buff to Yang Guifei. I believe her second buff ever, because I believe they buffed her first skill ages ago. So she got another buff. So let's start by talking about Sitonai's buff, I think. So previously, on a 6-turn cooldown, her third skill had an 80% chance to give her 20% attack for 3 turns, and an 80% chance to give her 10 stars per turn for 3 turns on max rank. And then she also got 30% battery. And that was it. So it's basically a DPS skill. Makes her spam more, makes her maybe do more damage, and maybe get some more stars. A big maybe. And personally, I really hated this skill. I hate RNG, but this skill in particular, for whatever reason, for me, whenever I used her, I always whiffed both. You'd be saying, oh, that's not possible. It is. Every single time, I miss both. I'm not kidding. This skill hates my guts. So I always whiffed both the attack up and the stars per turn, even if it seems unlikely. I don't know, man. I wish I could explain it. At least the battery always worked, but for that only, the skill would be really bad for an SSR. So I'm kind of happy that they buffed this. So let's see what they did. So now, the same 6-turn cooldown, my prayers have been answered, because now both scale up to 100% chance to activate the 20% attack and 10 stars per turn. So the effects were not changed, but the RNG was fixed. Hallelujah! Yes, this is already a big fix. The battery also remains at 30%, that hasn't been changed, but then we got 2 new lines. She now gets 30% anti-dragon power mod for 3 turns, and 30% anti-demonic power mod for 3 turns. Pretty okay power mods. The dragon one in particular makes a lot of sense, because her MP already has some anti-dragon synergy. She drains an MP tick from a dragon enemy when used on them. So now she also gets bonus damage on dragons. I don't think there was any anti-demonic synergy on her. Correct me if I'm wrong before this, but you know, demonic is a common trait for both, normal mobs and some servants and or bosses as well. So it's a good one to have for sure. It's one of the more common ones. Obviously, if you land both of them on the target, that's 60%. That's already quite a bit. That's going to be a significant boost to damage. But even on just one, it's not the worst thing ever. It's actually, you will feel the 30% too, especially if you're very buffed. But yeah, they're nice additions, I want to say. It gives you a bit more of a niche use case as well. It's good. And also, honestly, talking a bit more about the RNG here, I believe originally they kept it 80% because all Ilya faces had to have 80% RNG, right? Because I believe Kuro, they gave her a skill buff, which makes her give like 20% buff success rate to Ilya allies when used. So they were like, oh, dude, because we want to pair these characters together in the field, let's just gimp all the Ilya faces, because that's fun. So yeah, now we can just say, frick that. It's lore-wise, yeah, sure, it's a cute idea, but man, gameplay-wise, was it a terrible, terrible choice. So I'm so glad they said, frick that. Let's just 100% it on base anyway, because it was not fun using this skill, at least on my use cases. So now on a 6-turn cooldown, this skill is actually very solid. Great even, like really great. Her other skills, they're still not the best, sadly. But yeah, this third skill now is looking very solid. I still think they could buff her more after this too, but I'm so happy that they at least did something to begin with, because again, this was her first buff ever, and every year she was kind of looking a bit worse, especially with new really good servants, similar servants coming out. Now, sadly, because I had to factor reset by PC, the tier list rankings were lost because they were cached to my browser, but chat went ahead and checked for me the placements of today's servants, so at least we placed them. So Sitonai we had on B+ last year, or this year rather, on this tier list. And I think with this, we can move her to A for sure. Maybe even consider an A+ in the future. We'll have to when we revisit the list. But I think she's much more solid now, for sure. It was a much needed quality of life. She's still not very loaded in terms of effects and whatnot, nor damage. But she's just good now, you know? Sitonai fans rejoice. They finally remembered she exists. Poggers. Now, let's talk How next. Alright, let me actually hide this up goal. It's actually blocking a bit. Alright, there we go. So, also a buff to a third skill. So, previously on a 6-turn cooldown, she got this on-attack trigger buff for 3 times 3 turns, okay? With a cool special icon, I guess. So, whenever she was hit, the target gets a minus 10% defense down for 3 turns, and an up to 1k burn for 3 turns. And this can happen 3 times, right? Or if 3 turns goes by, it expires. So you can get 3 burns and minus 30% defense from this. It can be across multiple targets. Again, whoever attacks gets these debuffs on them. Or if it's like single boss, then they can get it 3 times, assuming they don't resist these debuffs, because they can be. And then also, she got 20% defense up on herself for 3 turns, which obviously paired nicely because she already had a taunt to begin with, right? I mean, it did have an invul, but, you know, in case the enemy happens to have an invul pierce, it's nice to have some more bonus defense, you know, and it's 3 turns, so it scales. So, it was alright, because obviously you want to have a burn on the enemy, because her MP has an anti-burn super effective. So if you don't have one of these, her MP kind of a noodle, but if the enemy is burning, her MP can actually do some very solid damage. And this was kind of her main way of getting it, minus command codes. So yeah, it was never really a terrible skill. It was still okay, but not amazing. Does the invul stop the debuff from attacking? No, it's not when damaged. It's when she is receiving an attack, as you know, it says on Atlas as well. So even if she has the invul up, I believe the target is still debuffed if they try to attack her. That's how it works, basically. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Yeah. So let's see what they changed. Now, on the same 6-turn cooldown, the on receiving attack buff was changed to be full-on 3 turns now. Huge, actually. This is very good, because now you can get a lot more defense down on enemy targets and a lot more burns as well. And remember, both of these last for 3 turns as is, so this really adds to the longevity of these debuffs. That's a great change. It being 3 times 3 turns, it wasn't terrible, but man, now it being flat out 3 turns is just so much nicer. So more damage, more consistent burns for that super effective. Great. The defense up remains at 20% for self for 3 turns. That is unchanged. So is the burn value and the defense down value. But now they added 2 new lines as well. She gets 30% arts up for 3 turns and 30% MP gauge on activation. Very good. Obviously, her MP was already decently spammable. Not like anything amazing, not like Draco or anything like that, obviously. But now having arts up from her own kit and some more battery. She even also had battery to begin with from her second skill, but it was always a bit awkward to use because you never wanted really to use this on turn 1 because you get battery based on enemy tick strain. So if you use this on turn 1, it's most likely just a defense down. But now normally you definitely want to pop skill 1 and 3 on turn 1, which makes, you know, getting the MP even easier because now you get 30% here and 30% arts. So it's just that they really played to her strengths, if anything, right? So now, again, much like Sitonai on a 6-turn cooldown, this skill is just very good. Very, very solid. And also worth mentioning, besides those defense downs from the second and the third skills, she didn't really have anything else for damage on her own kit. So having an arts up is great. Now, you're probably going to run her with supports that give arts up as well, so it's only going to be additive at that point. But it's still great because, you know, it's just more offense and more refund is great. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. We already had her on A this year. Now the question is, will she go to A+? I don't think she's EX tier. Still don't think it's EX tier. Mostly because she's mostly like just hitting neutral. Against Zergs, she's still very good though. But on neutral, she's probably still not up there. But could this be an A+ move? I think I can move her to A+. Let's do it. Again, we'll rediscuss probably on the tier lists of 2025, assuming we do them. Most likely we do. But yeah, for now, she's just good. She's just very solid. So there you go. There's a couple of buffs that I could not cover for obvious reasons last week. But hey, good buffs. Very good buffs. And honestly, especially in Sitonai's case, very deserved. So hey, rejoice. And I'm just, in general, I'm very happy that they're doing so much buffs to begin with. There might still be more buffs this week as well. We never know. There could very well be more buffs. And those I'm hopefully going to cover, you know, immediately as they come out again, as I usually do. But there you go. Even if this was late, hopefully you still enjoyed the video. Because I did see some people in the comments still asking for me to cover these buffs. So ask and you shall receive. So hey, more reasons to leave comments on these videos, I guess. And having said that, if you enjoyed this buff breakdown, do me a solid and click the thumbs up button, okay? Of course, it really helps out. And hey, we're hard pushing for that 100k. We're now closer than ever because you guys absolutely exploded my sub count when I came back. So thank you so much. But we are still pushing for that 100k. So if you want to see more, subscribe right now, okay? Also, hey, shout out to my patrons on the screen right now and Suit for being a big YouTube member tier supporter. And hey, hope to see you in the next one, whatever it may be. And a peace out!